So good morning and good evening. Welcome to the Circle of Harmony, a pause in time that we all need but may not admit that we need to just get some more bearings, more facts, more truths about or in and around the lives that we are living, the races that we are running, not knowing where they are taking us. Before we begin, just taking few breaths with no attention, with awareness that helps us come in the present moment. So breathing in and breathing out with the breath as the breath. The next 4-5 breaths we'll take together. Yes, thank you. So invoking grace, invoking the presence of divine for us to help us see more than we usually see, to grant us the opening that we all need, the flexibility, the acceptance, to see things out of different windows that we are often used to seeing, so that we can live a more simple, more easy, more solved, more, fuller, truer lives. Thank you. So, as we might know, there is no topic today because in between, I think it's good to have just such open circles where we can discuss anything that anybody would want to discuss. So, any quote, any reflection, any question that we can take up together as a group, uh, we can start with that. So, yeah, if anybody is willing, please they can unmute and we can begin. To get us started, sometimes it's, a push is needed. While I was, waiting for everybody to join, there was a quote I saw that resonated with our last week's topic. So it was nice. So I'll just share that. Maybe we can start with that. So I just took a screenshot and so it's by Swami Vivekananda. So if anybody would want to read it and reflect on it, that would be good.
Yes, ma'am. Swami Vivekananda quotes, feedingtrends.com. The Vedanta recognizes no sin, it only recognizes error. And the greatest error, says the Vedanta, is to say that you are weak, that you are a sinner, a miserable creature, and that you have no power and you cannot do this and that.
Yeah, so after last 2-3 weeks reflections on the sin, the sinner, moving beyond the sin and sinner, I thought this again was another good insight from Vedanta that sin sounds very ugly, right? Like when we say the word, when we feel the word, there's a lot of negativity in it, like, and then I think an absoluteness that sin, the worst maximum that could happen. Usually that's how we classify sin, right? Like beyond belief that, oh my God, how could this be done? And here we are hearing that the Vedanta recognizes no sin. It only recognizes error. So the first thing that I found a bit funny was that Vedanta recognizes no sin, but you and I do, right? To see how we place ourselves so much higher than the Almighty or the word of truth, that for them there is no truth, but no sin. But for me, there are so many sins for myself as well as others. My sense of duty, my sense of responsibility, my sense of this is unacceptable, wrong, right. So I have this sense. So to look at it from that aspect, I felt was quite interesting. That, yeah. And then the greatest, and it only recognizes error, right? Like now, when we look at the word sin and we look at the word error, like if I was to say that are these two synonyms, I wouldn't say that, right? Like they are not of the same nature. Error seems something lighter, right? That, oh, okay, it's an error, we'll correct it. And sin, like we were talking, has an absoluteness about it. Hi, Deepa. So again, it was interesting that it recognizes error, and it also reminded me, of mother's saying, what she said so lovingly, that I don't see your mistakes, I don't see your past, right? But I see your potential. And I think that is so important for us, for me, myself, and me, and for others. Because if I keep seeing where I have been, it stops me from being where I can be. And it's a very important point, I feel, right? That, say, for me, if I did something 10 years back, which I still repent, for example, real example, okay? So now I can spend the next 5 years cursing kind of cursing myself, or wondering, how could I have done that? How could I have done that? How could I be so stupid or foolish? And yet not seeing, this is what I find very fascinating, that I don't see that 10 years I realize I made mistakes and I've been thinking about it. 5 years I'm spending time wondering, how could I do it? How could I do it? And then probably after 5 years, if I'm lucky, by grace, I would say, okay, now I can undo it. So now I can let it go, right? So that it stops ruling me. But that's how long we give our mistakes, right? We make them, then we live them. Then we wonder why we made them. Why didn't we make different choices? And then if we are lucky, Grace says that, okay, now move on. And then we are like, oh, okay, that's also my possibility. Because for us, we usually don't take that as a possibility, because now we are like, okay, this is this, now I'm all in. So it's really beautiful. So I'll share that again. But if there's any reflections, anytime, feel free to unmute and share.
There was
Yes,
a,
ma'am.
a very similar story I read. I think Tikna Khan, he shared it. It was very powerful. He talked about exactly what you were sharing, about an American soldier who was in Vietnam. And he was a combatant soldier, and to fight with the Vietnamese army, he made food packets and he put bombs in it or something like that, something that kills, and he put it there. But and he was looking that now, the the people from the army will come and start eating. And actually villages, and very small children came out, like 5 6 years, and they ate, and he literally saw them eating, and then they died, 5 or 6 children completely. And that was like the biggest wound he carried. And even when he came back to America, for years he repented. He couldn't sleep because, as you said, that was like a sin to him. That weight was so big for him to carry, that I killed small children who had the potentiality to become, like an adult. And I remember Thai he said that, we did a mindfulness retreat there in USA, and that gentleman came. Somebody told him, as you said, Grace must have, gifted him that chance. And when Teknokhan was actually talking about, reconciling with your past, and past is not actually a past; it is also part of your present. So if you want to, we think we can't change the past, but you actually can change the past to change the present, because it is still in our present moment. And after that Dharma talk, he started crying really uncontrollably, and of course I was there, and he spoke with him. And like he said that I just smiled. Like, imagine somebody telling you, oh, I killed 5 6 children, and be like, oh my god, oh my god. And even if you will not say it, but I feel, even if you feel it inside, which we often do, somebody say, oh, I had like 10 beers like last night, and I won't say, but inside in my heart I say, oh my god, he 10 beers, like, inside. And that's it, they can feel it. You don't have to say it, I feel inside. That thing of, he's a sinner, you don't have to like say it, but your conditioning will say it inside. And because of course Thai was Thai, he just smiled from inside out. And he said that, and he said, but you can change. Why are you thinking that you, okay, you might have done it, but there's so many children here, you know who you can save. There are people dying in Africa, in USA, people, children in drug abuse, and you can save. So you can, really, those children, you can really bring them life, because they have not really gone. And he said after the talk, he just recognized that it wasn't like, and now I'm paraphrasing, but he said that he recognized that that was actually not a sin but an error. And once that recognition came, transformation and healing also started happening. So he started really helping people, and he's living a very happy life now. He said he's married, he has his own children. And that was an example. Like, so I thought I'll share that even with such big things that we think are sin, and how with grace you can actually just that. And there was another thing where you're talking about, there was also a video I saw about Rupert Spira, and somebody asked him very interesting question, that how does God let that so much suffering happen to people? How can it happen? How he's God if he can actually let so much suffering happen in the world? And his reply was really interesting. He said, because for God there is no suffering, there's nothing called suffering. And even if you have the deepest depression, even if you have the deepest problem, if you go to the root, very root into the depression, very root into the suffering, you will find love, because there is only love, and everything else is just a distortion. So I think that also resonated with that quote, that how you know um, sin is a distortion of a potentiality that we all have. So yeah, but very difficult to practice for me as well, some cases. Yeah, so thanks.
Thank you, Nandini, for that.
Yeah, thank you. And in this story, I think he also mentioned that he could have stopped those children from eating. He had that, so that was even further on his mind, that he was started thinking that they are from the other side. Should I help? Should I not stop? And before he knew it, it was gone. And yeah, I mean, yeah. So I think so similarly, we might not admit to ourselves, but if we actually see there are certain things we'll find that we are carrying from ourselves, like my sin, the wrongs that were done to me through circumstances, through life, through people, and the sins or mistakes of others. So if we could just become aware that, okay, there are certain things which I have put in the category of sins, like a galat hua, like really wrong, like traumas that I am carrying. If we could just see that it was an error, it wasn't a sin, although it might appear to be really big, and yet take the time to maybe make that shift, change the narrative of my story, and suddenly we'll find some lightness in our being. If we are actually able to do, shift the sin to an error that they didn't know any better. I didn't know any better. But now I do, right? If I stop basking in the aftermaths of what has happened to me or what I have done, I feel then I give space for life to happen, right? So that the new can happen. And I am so busy with the past that nothing new is happening, and then life feels monotonous and heavy and dull. And then these questions that why is life so bad, right? Because I'm so clutching. I won't repeat that, but I think that's a good thing. That's a very, how do you say, a very pious thing, a very sensible thing. If one can do that, would have a lot of more grace in our life, bring a lot of grace in our life. Yeah. So let's just go through it and we'll take more. So the Vedanta recognizes no sin. It only recognizes errors. In the future too, if I'm feeling something is bigger than life, something has drastic has happened, let me remember this. No sin, only errors. And the greatest error, says the Vedanta, is to say that you are weak. That, it's like talking to me, that I am weak. If I say I'm weak, that you are a sinner. If I say I'm a sinner, if I'm a miserable creature, I say or I believe that. And if I say I have no power and I cannot do this and that, this according to Vedanta, when we talk about sin, when we talk about mistakes, errors, morality comes, ethics come, responsibility comes, duties come in the world that I live. And yet Vedanta, which is the word of truth, the ultimate truth, the absolute truth, so this is what it's saying, that no sin, only error. And in that, the biggest error is if I consider myself to be less. That is my biggest error or sin, whatever I want to call it. Let's call it error only so that we can remove the word sin from our vocabulary. So very, very, very reflective. And if one can incorporate this in our, if we can, like I was saying, change the narrative, if I can change this in me, I see a lot of lightness would pour in. Yeah, I'll stop and
Yeah, Vivekananda was a bold man, fearless kind of. And well, I was thinking like we shouldn't underestimate the importance in some sort of regret, in the sense that it gives us a hint of how we disobeyed our soul. And if we keep on not listening to our soul, we will start losing the capacity to hear it and respond. Like in that, like the case Nandini talked about, like we are talking about really big mistakes. We shouldn't underestimate the work that regret may make work on us. But saying that, having said that, I was thinking about Vivekananda's words, and I was thinking that probably it's a bigger mistake also to let ourselves be beaten that regret and stop us from the possibility of change, of transforming, and to do in our present moment the best to be ourselves. So that would be a bigger scene, if we could say that. But I think, I don't remember the exact words, but Mother says something very similar to that. We don't see any of these ideas of sin in her prayers and meditations, and she also said something similar, like we shouldn't think of ourselves as sinners, as small, like it's important to be humble, but not to think of ourselves as these petty small things and sinners. It's not healthy. It's not good for our spiritual life also. And I believe these ideas are much closer to the Semitic religions like Judaism and Islam and Christianity. We see a lot these ideas about we should feel like mean people and sinners, and that we are offending God, and that we must seek for forgiveness, and it doesn't feel healthy to even to think it. I feel it very related to these ideas of God as being angry, on God making revenge and taking into account our sins, and I don't think we can love God if we fear Him. So it's, when I read the work of Sri Aurobindo and Mother, and they said these things like God is not seeing your mistakes, is anything you can do, God will be watching your soul and taking care of you, and it's a much healthier relation we can have with the divine in this way.
Yeah, just on these lines, when Juan was sharing, so I was just reminded of this passage we had read maybe 3 weeks back in our Friday study. The title is Blaming Oneself. So if anybody is willing, if they could just read the first paragraph, I think it's very reflective of what just, and I think that's the way to go about it.
Yeah, Taru, I'll read.
Yes, please, Sarthak.
Yeah. Blaming oneself. Is blaming oneself a good method of progressing? Blaming oneself? No, not necessarily. It may be useful. It is indeed useful from time to time in order to get out of the illusion of one's own perfection. But one wastes much energy in self-criticism. It is much better to use this same energy in making progress, a concrete progress, something more useful. For example, if you have thoughts which are unpleasant, ugly, vulgar, and disturbing, and you say, how intolerable I still have such thoughts. What a nuisance it is. It would be much better to use this very energy simply to do this gesture and drive away the thoughts.
Yeah, so just how the first aspect which one said that we cannot discount that, right? It has some use. So when Vedanta said that there's no sin, but there is error, right? And we can work on the error, for example. So not saying that there is no error. Error, of course, there is. So it is useful indeed from time to time, but one wastes much energy in self-criticism, and the same energy can be used in making progress. I think that's the crux of it. We want to understand the big picture, and then we'll have to incorporate in our everyday when we see ourselves going there, sitting on the mountains of guilt or victim identity, that how I must transform or transcend. Yes, Chagan.
Ma'am, in that same passage.
Yeah.
Thank you. In the end, it said, aha, how intolerable I am. I still have such thoughts. What a nuisance it is. Until that, I understood, but then it goes on with, it would be much better to use this energy simply to do this. So, ma'am, to do this, what is that this here?
It's like drive it away, right? Like as in shun it up, shrug it, like, okay, it happened. I see my error. Now, what am I doing? I'm sitting and brooding in that error. So just let it go. So I'm assuming this is the gesture, right? That just changed the energy now, like redirect it. So the energy I'm spending in wondering, "Kyare, I'm still like this, da, 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 da." I can spend the same time and energy into thinking, okay, how do I move forward? How do I not do this? How do I change? So that's what.
Okay. Because I thought it said, it would be much better to use this energy simply to do this work, which is more helping to my progress. I was thinking, what is this? Maybe this is some sort of a work, but um, isn't it?
I think we can all have our interpretations because it's something she said, and both can be true. That find something bigger, right? You're saying this task. So any task that I'm doing, which is a bigger task, right? Then sitting and dwelling on that thoughts, it could be what you are saying, that choose a
Yeah.
task, or it could be just not this, just let this go and do something better. It's actually saying the same thing, huh?
Would be much better to use this very energy simply to do this and drive away the thought. Okay, okay. No, your interpretation now makes more sense because of it says simply to do this. So it's like a irritated thing to do this, and to me, not what she said.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So we can move to some other sharing, question, reflection, or stick with it. So requesting people, any of us who would want to share anything today. Otherwise, I pull up something else, but it would be nice to have some questions and reflection.
I have often wondered, especially in integral yoga, um, one thing that always used to stay with me that others to say our path is not path of suffering, but of of joy, of progress. And in other readings, I would always encourage, Ram Das, would always say that suffering, embrace your suffering because suffering is where where you're still clinging. So suffering opens the door towards the path. And I have to say, something I'm missing, something is not right here because I can find there's a little bit, my mind is not able to understand it. And and I asked her that, of course, at point, mother also says that suffering can be beneficial for us to actually Like, for example, in that example, what Joan was saying, sometimes very deep mistakes also have a purpose, because they actually become a path for your spiritual practice. Only through that, difficult situations, you're able to wake up. But I say that why mother says, but still for us, suffering is not very important. We shouldn't really focus on that, on our sufferings, but on the joy and progress that we have to make. And I used to ask her, can you please explain it to me, because I'm not able to understand. And I remember something that came up in the Gita class, which was very beautiful. I think I've shared it before. So this Vedantic example of Vishnu. So if you see how Vishnu is represented in the Vedantic tradition, he has 4 hands. In his 4 hands, he has Gada. It's like Gada would be, how would you say Gada in English? Something, a weapon that, you pick up and you fight with it. So that's like a Gada. In one hand, then he has like a Shankh is, that in Indian tradition, you actually put it and you on your mouth, and it's like, wake up now. It's like a bell. It serves as a bell for the gods. So he has Shankh, Gada. He has, I think, lotus flower in his hand. And the last one, yeah, exactly. And the last one is the Sudarshan Chakra. So if you see 4 things there, that's 4. And that's God in his manifestation, the 4, the thing. And he said that actually, if you see closely in your life and your spiritual path, it doesn't really start with the Sudarshan Chakra or the Gada. He actually starts with the little wake up calls that, come on, wake up. This is small opportunities you'll have for progress. But because we are so much in tamas, so much in inertia, so much in darkness, it will will not listen. And then, he will sometimes use the flowers, start with the flowers, easy part. But we just so much busy with our ego self. And then, he will sometimes, he will definitely use the Shankh, the wake up call, but will not even use that. And when he says, okay, this, of course, we know that the purpose of existence of the earth is to evolve, is to actually become, all of us has to become the Brahman. That's the purpose behind our existence. So he has to do it somehow, and you are not listening. So what he'll do, he'll bring in the Gada. And when the Gada comes, suffering comes. So only then you will say, no, I cannot bear it. I cannot bear it. People who do not even bring the Gada, then he has to use the Chakra. Then you'll have terminal illnesses and, big problems, because that's, and then you say, oh my God, this is the Sudarshan Chakra. My existence will go away. I have to wake up. And it was so ironic that I asked her to explain. After a few days, I listened this, and it actually made sense that what she's saying, that be my sweet children, be my heroic warriors. You don't need Gada, you do not need Chakra. You can wake up with this thing. So don't look for suffering for evolution, but make your life in such a way that that you do not need suffering to evolve. So I think that was something that so much appealed to me, that we do not really need all of this. Like, as you said, that may we have a simple life, may we have a beautiful life, we can actually have it if we choose not to, and then suffering comes, and then we get engulfed in it. So I thought that's something I really liked, so thought of sharing.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, Adi.
Yeah, so good. Just now, what Nandini shared, I also resonate with that, because during this wedding preparations, every day I try to sit in front of the mother and spend some half an hour with her, talk to her. Since last month I couldn't sit for 10 minutes also. Not that I was very busy, but mind was not still. So I was finding it very difficult. What is this, mother? See, that means you need something else. If you have any difficulty, only you will go to the mother. If you are happy and everything is very harmonious, you don't want to go and sit with her and you tell her everything. So I was tormenting myself, why I am like this. So maybe this is right. If any difficulty comes, then people will turn to God. If everything is okay, we will not go and sit with them. We will not even think of her. So one day I sat in front of her, I was talking to her, Mother, see, you are the doer. You are doing everything, all the arrangements. See, we are only instruments. You are the planner, you are the doer, you are everything. So in this scenario, who am I? I'm only your instrument, but your instrument is not proper. I'm not proper. I'm not all right. See, if I don't surrender completely to you, then what is the use of this instrument? So this, that, and all, blah, blah, blah. I always talk like this to her. So I told her, I don't know, Mother, you have to make me sit in front of you at least for 10 minutes a day. So I don't need any suffering. I don't need any difficulty. So I kept on doing this for 3 days continuously. Whenever I cross that room, whenever we go to buy something, we'll buy and we'll come back and keep it in front, in her feet. So when I do that, I started doing this for 3 days. The very 4th day morning, I was able to sit with her for half an hour without anything. Just ma, 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 ma. So it is only our thoughts which is bringing suffering and difficulties. That is what, I understood. So even when you're happy, you will be able to sit with her. You will be able to think about her. But, we are not choosing. So we want some opportunity by the way of difficulty to go to her. Actually, it is not necessary. If we are conscious, that is what I felt. It was a beautiful finding. So my mother always says, if you tell her, she will listen. Because she was, old, and in their time there was no phone. Even normal landline phone was not there. And cell phone came, when she was very old, the cell phone came. And she used to have one phone, but she didn't know how to use the phone. But she always thinks, oh, my son should call me. My son should call me. So she does not know how to operate the phone, and she will not ask. She was very shy to ask anyone. So she always says, if I tell the mother, my son should call, please make him call. If I tell her 2 times, my son will call, mother listens everything. See, only thing we are not saying, we are not telling her what we want. If we tell her, she knows, she will make things, arranged. Things will be arranged in such a way that how it has to happen. So those times I used to smile. See, Amma, how she is, very simple and ignorant and very beautiful bhakti for the mother. So now when I realized, I felt very happy. So I thought I will share with you all. So if we are really conscious, and if we really want to be with her, to be in her presence or remember her continuously, there is no need for any suffering. We can be her children. Yeah. Thank you. Very nice to share. It just needs childlike faith. That's all.
A lot of couplets and quotes are regarding this only, about this need of suffering. And in Savitri, we were just reading something from the issue, that is like the first canto and the second part, the issue. In that also it said that, like that the joy remains till the end. That is not possible. So there was this figure that was shown, not figure, but this symbolism that there is an energy which decides, okay, which I don't know, challenge, which pain, which circumstances, like it said, death, sorrow, or fall. These are the three things the one who would have to now, like maybe the god of evolution, he would give to you, give on you, put on you, so that you can now start evolving, now start working towards the higher self. And so many, the simplest Kabir dohas that, दुख में सुमिरन सब करें, सुख में करे ना कोई, जो दुख में सिमरन करे, सुख में सिमरन करे, तो दुख काहे कोई. Like this is one of the most commonest Kabir doha, saying that mostly all of us just remember God when we are suffering. So nobody remembers him in their joys. So if you start being with him when you are joyous, then less and less and less suffering will need to visit you because you're always with him. But because, like I see in my life, like Dadaji was sharing, Nanni was sharing, that I do not want to really think about him because it seems that such more important things are going on. I have to think, I have to do, I have to plan. And that is why I get, that for the shank, now that calling has come, it hurts my ears or whatever, ki come, come, come. Then the instrument, the weapon, and then the Sudarshan Chakra has to come because this is how I am. Even Farid, he had a beautiful thing, ke सुख में सुमिरन ना किया, दुख में करते याद, कौन सुनेगा फरियाद, something like this. Like again, all absolutely on the same lines, that we don't need suffering to progress if we are progressing, even if we are getting joys and delights. But I don't know in which I think it was again in Sunlit Path only that I had read that when you are visited by pleasures, you just start pulling flowers and making your own garlands and all, and you forget about God. And then suffering comes and you're like, oh my God, I had to be with, I have to remember God and I have to progress. Yes, Jagan.
Yeah, no, I wasn't really about to say anything. I think I may have unmuted for a second. But anyway, since unmuted, I'll say. Um, for me, it's for me, I've started recognizing, and I'm so happy I'm able to recognize this now, that the pattern, let's say I have, like, I'm craving for something, I'm craving for direction, and I get that direction. So the work here is to use that source to, to grow up, to grow further, and then to become a better person and be thankful. What I've noticed, and I've already shared this, that, there is this negative being that it says ki, oh, now you have this source, so, now you're improving, now you're growing mentally, but tomorrow this source will go, and then what will happen to you? And I'm not going back there and again, but what I'm trying to say is that the tricks the mind plays, I think it plays with everyone, as far as I know. But if I'm talking about myself only, then the tricks my mind plays is, जब तक नहीं है, ये रो रहा है कि नहीं है, जब है तो ये रो रहा है कि चला जाएगा. तो मतलब इसको ग्रो, मतलब द वे इट डज नॉट वांट मी टू, इट्स लाइक अ फ्रेंड इन स्कूल व्हेन आई वाज लाइक, टीचर मुझे पता है, नहीं, लाइक बैठो यार, हमें पता है, तेरे को पता है, बट आई वांटेड टू से. So, back then, what my course of action was, that I said, if you don't want to sit with me, go sit somewhere else, but don't be with me, because this is how I want to react in the class. So maybe I could tell this being in me that, if you don't want to live with me like this, with me growing, then you have to get out of me. And yeah, so yeah, that's all. I'll share if I remember something else.
Yesterday, I came across this interview come podcast kind of this lady called Anita Moorjani, who was afflicted with cancer, and she went into coma. The cancer had spread all through her lymph nodes. And she had led a very busy life before that. She was into corporate, very stressful job, stressful life, full of fears and insecurities. And uh, when she went into coma, while others thought that she was in coma, she could sense all of her environment around her. She never realized that she was in coma. But apparently, then there was a time when all her organs started failing, and it was almost like the doctor said it was a point of no return. But it seems to her that she did the crossover. She had a near-death experience and she crossed over to the other side. She met all those near and dear ones of hers. She felt a lot of immense love. And so she shares some of the key points that I could talk a lot about it. It was a very interesting talk and conversation. But the key points that she spoke about one was um, the life of fear. So if you live in fear, that is all that you attract. She lived in fear about her cancer. She lived in fear about what would happen. Even when she went into remission, she feared a recurrence. And she's saying that is all she attracted. She doesn't think it is so much genetics as much as, if somebody in your family has suffered from some disease, that's all you think about. What will happen to me? Will that happen to me? What food should I eat? What should I avoid? And your whole life, you're thinking and thinking about the same thing, and that is all you attract. So if we kind of put it into different context, it is not just health. I mean, it could be fear of anything else, fear of being robbed, fear of losing your job. That's all you attract, right? Then that was one part that was very interesting to think about, how important it is to think positively. Not only that, she mentioned about not to take life too seriously, take it as it comes. Because she feels she does not look at her cancer also negatively. She thinks that it brought about a shift in her whole personality. Her life changed after this experience. That was the other key point for me. The third was where she says when she crossed over, the space and time realm totally changed for her. Like she had a 360-degree view of everything that is happening in the world. She could see the past, the present, and the future all together. It's difficult for us to understand, but she tried to explain it saying that it's like a tapestry. If you see the yellow threads interweaving with the red and how we impact each other. So what she said was, when she can see everything all together, including her past lives and her future lives, her key point for herself and for everybody was, if we can change our present, we have no idea how it impacts so many things and so many peoples and so many scenarios beyond us. So not only just our lives, but so many others are connected to this. You might be in India, but you could affect somebody in Canada or Africa, because we are all so connected. So it was a very interesting viewpoint. And she does think that she came back, or many others who have come back are here so that we all get a glimpse about what we need to do with our lives. We get an understanding. Like, she has clarity, but she's trying to give that clarity to everybody, because not everybody can cross over in our lifetimes and come back with that knowledge. But this is what she's telling us, that that there is no point in living in fear. There is no point in living with all these negative emotions, insecurity, stress, because we are thinking only of this moment and our immediate rewards and gains and promotions and all those things. But if we just bring about the little shifts in the way we think, in the way we live, life will be meaningful not only for us, but also for so many other people. So just to take from Nandini's example of the soldier who probably ended up killing 5 children, but if he went ahead and saved 100 other children from starvation, or you could probably think that those 5 innocent lives had decided to sacrifice their lives for the betterment of 100 other people, children, all across the world. So we cannot understand why things happen, and there is no need to think about it. But if that brings about so many positive changes, I think, yeah, there's always a reason in that sense.
Absolutely. Thank you, Deepa. You know, she has like, I think, written many books, even the titles of her book, you know, Anita Moorjani, they are very, I mean, in itself, they are pretty amazing. The first one is Dying to Be Me. So I died so that I could become me. And this is what, you know, is expected of us too, right? That die to your older self, die to your past. But she said that I died so that I could be the true me, the expansive me. And the second one is, what if this is heaven? You know, we keep saying heaven, 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 and she's saying this is heaven. Like, do you think about that? Like, so it's both these books and more she has written, but these two, pretty amazing.
Yeah, I did come across those titles, and I was thinking that would be such an interesting book as well to read, because her conversation was so nice as well. She comes across as so genuine and wanting to spread the message. Because in retrospect, when I listen to her, then I can see so many places I took life so seriously, so driven, so ambitious, that you forget the simple pleasures of life. Um, and yet there is more life ahead, so things could change.
Yes, thank you. Yes, Adarsh, it's available on Amazon, any bookstore. It's very common. Deepa can share the name of the titles on the group. Yeah, very commonly available, very popular. Good read. Yes, Chaka.
Thank you. Please share that the name of the.
Yeah. Deepa, you'll share it on the group. Yeah. Yes, Chaka.
Yeah, I'll
Ma'am,
do
that
that.
quotation you shared, I don't know if it's visible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
If your freedom hurts others, you are not free then. So if we can talk about this as well. The question is, uh, you know, it's said that with great power comes great responsibility. So if freedom is my power, then how should I be responsible while I'm being, free? I'm enjoying my freedom, because there are so many contexts to freedom. Like I can, I can do things which, how do I put it? Like I can do good things and call it freedom, or I can do bad things, and I say this is my freedom, I'm enjoying it. But in both cases, there will be others commenting, and there will be others saying, as why are you doing this and all. But how will I use this freedom to my like how can I use my freedom responsibly? Like where is the line that I have to draw? You can give a little bit more light on that.
The question is, how do I use my freedom more responsibly?
No, I don't think I've explained it correctly, ma'am. Because if I am, let's say, if I am, you know, holding a beer in my hand, walking by the lake, you know, and just in just holding my beer, walking by the lake, and I'm just commenting people, and I'm just throwing stones at those geese, throwing stones at those ducks in the water, and I'm saying this is how I enjoy my freedom. And it's annoying to people, but I'll say I don't care what you think, but this is how I enjoy my freedom. That is not the right freedom, or I don't know what word to put to it, but we can just give a little bit more light.
Yeah, anybody would like to respond to that? The code that we had shared on the group and what Jagan was saying. Any thoughts, any reflections?
If somebody else wants to go ahead, please. Or I'll
Deepa, you
talk.
can go then, Juan. Thank you.
Okay. It reminds me again of the same conversation I had with my parents. I did mention about it. So initially, when I used to talk about the spiritual conversations, I call them every day. They were very excited to see that shift in me. We had discussions on the same. Mom is very religious, and dad is more spiritual. So they were very excited to see that, okay, this aspect has touched my life as well. Then the discussions went further as to, I'm not finding as much meaning in life. I want to do more. Kids have grown up. I would like to contribute, even if that means getting away from home, leaving home, and but not completely giving up, but still getting into some meaningful work. And immediately the reaction from the other side, after a day or two, came in. My sister called, my parents called, and they were so worried that I'm going to leave my family behind, and they thought I will become like as in India they say, like a sannyasi, in English maybe nun or monk or whatever. And they were so quick to judge. And I think there was that fear of losing me. Everybody is in such a comfort space right now, within family, extended family as well. I mean, we support each other emotionally, right? If my sister's going through a low, I help her out. If I'm going through a low, I speak to my parents, I feel better. If they feel lonely, I call every day. So it's an ecosystem. And any changes in that ecosystem is scary for everybody involved. And what I felt with respect to that, when I read Vivekananda's quote, also the first thing that came to my mind was, so I think I'm free to take that decision of going far away from family. But when I had this discussion, I felt bogged down. I felt like, no, I have to be there for my children or my parents, or I cannot disappoint them by forsaking my family. Um, what will they think? What did she achieve after all this education? She just left everything and did something which was not connected. People's aspirations, expectations, being a people pleaser as well, you'll never have the freedom. Am I really free was the question that came to me. And even free to take such a decision to do what you want to do with your life for the next maybe 6 months. That's all it would have been, or maybe longer. But was I free to take that decision? I felt the need to consult. I felt the need to take their opinions. I kind of changed my decision based on what their insecurities, fears, and what their suggestions were. I thought maybe this is not the time. I'll need to wait more. So, in spite of being educated, independent, financial independence, and all of it, still I couldn't take that decision. So it really resonates. So there is a need to achieve that freedom. Yes.
Thank you, Deepa. We'll talk more about it. Yes, Juan, please.
No, I was thinking that it's useful, and we all do have some ideas about how to conduct ourselves, to have some ethics, and it's okay to have some guiding general ideas, like about how to use our freedom. Like, we don't want to harm another, we don't want to destroy the environment, or things like that. But lastly, no mental rule will be enough for guiding us. And this is, at least for us who are attempting to follow a spiritual path, particularly the teachings of Sri Aurobindo and Mother. Ethics have a role in our growth. We need some ideas, but finally,
Juan, your voice is going from soft to loud to soft to loud. Like it's kind of wavering in volume a lot.
okay, I think it's the connection. It's better now.
Yeah, it's good now.
Yes, that it is okay and it's useful, and we need to have some guiding ideas about the things we how to use our freedom, but it won't be enough in any ethics, any mental rule that we can build.
Yeah, I don't think that your camera is stuck now. We can't hear anything. I don't know if you can hear that.
The integral yoga, the first important realization that Mother says is the one of our soul, the one of our psychic, and from there we will be able to have the right guidance, because really to be free means to be free of our own conditionings, of our own ego, or our own, even our own desires. That is the deeper meaning, I think, of freedom. It's
Not able to hear fully. Sorry.
I will try. My connection is
The connection seems to be okay, but mic seems to be a problem. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's dwindling, and then again going back.
okay. Sorry.
Thank you.
I will try.
So I think one thing at least that I could hear very well from Juan's sharing was that to him, the freedom when he thinks about being free is to be, free from my ego, free from my desire. So that is the freedom. And what Deepa was sharing, it was, it's really, I don't know, they say, every story, they say, how do they say it? Kahani ghar ghar ki, this is a story of so many of us. And it's really interesting, the words that you use, that how it's a ecosystem or a ecosystem, we can say both, it is ecosystem and ecosystem, that how we are all supporting each other's but life, right? Like there is something called me. There's a structure, my emotions, my freedom, my want, desires, life. And my role as a family member is not to grow or to help other grow. For me, honestly, the role is just to maintain that state. That state which I consider to be a state of harmony and peace, because now the person seems comfortable there, right? So there are 5 members, all have their own thing, and now they have found some way of balancing or some equilibrium they have achieved, which is a very, actually it's not a equilibrium, but it appears to be, right? A superficial equilibrium which gets disrupted at everything, right? The smallest wind blows. One comment one person makes about the other and it gets disrupted. And yet that superficial harmony we cling to so much, we give so much importance to, that it's hilarious actually if we look at it, if we are able to look at it from a distance, that how we're just feeding egos and supporting how where everybody is and thinking this is my role and this is what I am doing right. It's really good. You use the word ecosystem, support each other. So there is no हित, जैसे हिंदी में कहते हैं ना कि what is auspicious, what is good. So if 5 people are kind of blind or not wanting to progress, now they are stuck. Okay, this is what my life is. And if one of them says, okay, but this doesn't seem good, maybe I can see, get up and see if there's something else beyond the well I'm living. So all 4 of them will push her down or him down. Okay, no, 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 stay here, stay here, stay here, don't look out. So a lot of questions can come, right? That if this is so good, why is it that anytime one rises, the 4 want her or him to be down? Like why? If my service or my product is good, I'll say, go in the market, right? Inquire, I'm sure you will come back. But that never happens. You're always pulled back, always pulled back. So one must question that kuch to gadbad hai. They know this is not, the ultimate. This is not the best potential. And yet, because we are attached, we pull. So again, to recognize that attachment is what this is. This is not love. Because if it was love, and if somebody would want to say, okay, I want to now stand up and look outside at what is there more. Why does this not feel enough? If it was love, they would say that yes, yes, by all means, right? Go and see. So that if you could find something, I mean, we are there for you, right? We are here. You can come back here any time you want. But in case you find something higher, more beautiful, we all can go there. Right? So this fear that the person will change, this thing, about that, oh, there was so much education, their life was supposed to be lived a certain way. Like we are not allowed to change. We are not allowed to say that, okay, that was a mistake, or I was that then and that was important to me then, but today I want to explore new things. That is technically not allowed in our family systems, most of all. Most of the times it's not allowed. We are supposed to be this, okay, this is how it's working up. Now there's a habitual pattern, let's stick to that. And especially the elderly, like I hear this word a lot and it baffles me, and yet it is what it is. What are we doing now? We are just doing time pass. Time hi to kaatna hai. Okay, let's not shake things up, because everything is totally fine now and we are all just okay, habitual in our patterns, habits, और अब बस एक time pass चल रहा है. Time pass to what? Till we leave the body. Usko we don't want to acknowledge, right? We will not accept that death is real. We will not take it. We will not talk about it. We will consider it inauspicious to talk about it. And yet we are saying time pass, time pass, time pass. But towards what is that time pass ending to? We don't look. So not much has to be said. We all can see that something is wrong in this system, which wants to grasp and keep the system intact, because there is this fear that something better or more freer will be found. And in the name of attachment, in the name of love, actually, we stop people from progressing. And yeah, we can all decide first. If it's very interesting, but about how you took it, because I think reflected almost on the same lines only, that I appear to be free to make decisions and changes and everything and experiments, and yet the reactions, the judgments, the responses, it don't, they are right there telling me that no, you don't get to choose. You chose 15 years back, 10 years back, and now this is it, but no. And Jagan, what you were saying, it was basically, there's a difference. Like there's free, here we are talking about freedom from the bondages that we see, right? Of every day where we are. And what you were talking about, especially in that example, that freedom can be taken for anything, right? Like just to be licentious and do anything. I think what you were talking about comes more in the just the basic behavior of humans, right? So that I think we all know, right? What is right, what is wrong, and especially in youth, in the those years and all, we do want to explore and exploit and all, and we all know that's not right. So I think to each our own, but like how, in Spider-Man or Superman, right? Like with freedom, with great freedom comes great responsibility. So anything of that aspect, like, but here, like again, Vivekananda is talking about what is truly freedom, right? Like even small freedoms of where I want to go, how I want to do, how I want to live, like today or visit this or whatever. I mean, these small things. Am I free? Am I free? And I don't know, we all aspire, when we hear the word freedom, it's something very beautiful, that the sense that I feel when I hear the word freedom. And when I feel that beauty towards freedom, I wondered that why would I feel so attracted towards it? Why? I mean, I appear to be free, but yet I'm feeling like, wow, freedom. So that means कि दाल में कुछ काला है, कि I must not be free if I'm loving the word freedom so much and feeling attracted towards it. Like the bird is flying free in the sky. Like, so, why am I sitting here? I can go and do it too, but very reflective. Yeah, I haven't answered your question, Jagan, but yeah, I hope you got some.
No, you did. You absolutely did. Also, yeah, that was a pretty basic, it's a common sense thing. But again, what Deepa shared, what Juan shared so beautifully, and yeah, these are the things that I even I haven't looked at, but thankfully, thanks for this session and these people that I'm able to. So thank you.
Yeah. The responsibilities, the duties, these equilibrium houses that we have made, they end with the body. Yes, Arjadi, thank you. We are just stopping in another minute or two, but please, thank you so much for joining. It was nice to have you. Yeah. So,
Thank you, Taru. Thanks, everyone.
just one last thing I just wanted to share was that these structures that we have made, we must see that these are just for the body, right? Like the name is of the body, these relationships are of the body, these structures which we feel are a very strong foundation of my life. But the superficiality of it, we have seen one smallest thing, one this, and they are ready to, break the whole thing. It's still the body, and just remembering that I am more than the body. I have a body, I'm more than the body, and I'll be answerable to myself and to higher questions that why I didn't do this or why I did do this. So my excuses better be strong enough if I'm choosing to curb my flight, that why didn't I fly when I could? I must have good answers that why I kept sitting and I never tried to fly. And by that, it doesn't mean that to just run away, to just break everything, but maybe finding a higher ground where all can again have more harmony and more holistic, more foundational harmony than the superficial, egoistic harmony that we mostly have. There would be exceptions, of course, but yeah. Yeah, endless conversation, but I think this is good for now and we'll take up more. So from my end, I'm like happy to end now. This was good, very good reflections. If we can incorporate some of this, I mean, ideally all of it, but some of it would be beautiful. Yeah. So if there's anything we can share, otherwise we'll end. My son is singing in the other room. I don't know if you guys can hear him. Okay, so we'll end the session. So thanking Grace, the blessing to see that the things that I consider as sin, past, present, future, I can leave that baggage of sins down and I can look at them as errors. And errors I know I can correct. And sins, there are no. So that brings a ease into my life. So aspiring for simplicity, for true freedom, for true harmony, may nothing stop me from reaching where I must reach, since I've taken birth for evolution and progress, and not to support my or others around me and in general the egoistic cloud, but for true progress and true growth, that whatever needs to happen may happen. Praying for wellness, peace, true joy for everybody. And thanking the capacity to have such aspirations and prayers. Thank you so much for joining.